Good morning, everyone. And before I get started and we talk about this dismantling of this criminal enterprise, allow me a moment to do some welcomes and express my gratitude. It's always a privilege to have our Attorney General, James Uthmeyer, here with us, joining us today in Tampa. General, you continue to ensure that Florida law enforcement has the tools, resources, equipment that we need to do investigations like this. And Florida communities are safer because of you. Thank you for joining us today. And when you speak about a phenomenal resource, the General has the Office of Statewide Prosecutor who has been there since moment one with us and been there every step along the way. Thank you to the partnership of Stephanie Bergen. Stephanie, our detective, sure did admire your work and appreciate everything you've done, from forfeiture, seizure liens, to search warrants, to arrest warrants. You've been phenomenal. Thanks for joining us today. And again, General, thank you for making Stephanie available to help our detectives along the way. Assistant Special Agent in Charge, John Yancey, Homeland Security Investigations. Thank you, sir. And a true partner in all of this, every time we're conducting these retail theft organizations, is retail crime investigator Tim Downs with Home Depot. Tim, thank you. Thank you for your partnership. Again, you'll learn more why this was so critical. When you walked in here today, you probably thought you were walking into a hardware store. But make no mistake, these items represent a criminal enterprise built on theft, fraud, resale, and laundering across multiple jurisdictions. We have an organized theft unit that focuses on thieves stealing from retail organizations and corporations. But throughout my career, I've never seen a theft or a criminal enterprise to this magnitude. So how did we get here today? In November of last year, towards the end of the month, we received a tip of a fencing operation that was operating here in Hillsborough County. What that is a organization, an individual who would buy stolen items and then resell those stolen items at a discounted price. So our detective said, hey, let's take a look at this. We've sent an undercover operative into the organization to see if we could get in by selling a stolen item. Working with our close partner at Home Depot, we had a couple items that still had the spider wrap, that anti-theft wrap. We wanted to make no mistake that the person in charge that we were introduced to in this criminal enterprise knew that this item was stolen. From there, a relationship blossomed with our undercover operative, to the point where they would express items that they wanted to purchase. If they had a demand for electrical panels, hey, we need electrical panels. At one point, it was a generator. I need a generator. Here's the size. I have a customer looking for this. Go steal this item. Again, teaming up with Home Depot, who would give us that item. We would take it, sell it at a discounted rate. It was even a pre-negotiated rate. If an item costs $1,000, I'll give you $600 for every item, or $500 for every item you sell. They would turn around and sell it. You can look at this video and see that even our undercover operatives, our detectives, during this time frame, as they were conducting this operation until May 4th, when we served arrest and search warrants, they had no idea that it was going to be this expansive. I think I want to talk about the irony and the name of this individual's company. It was Save On Construction, LLC. It was even a family-run business. His wife, his two sons, his nephew were at the nucleus of this criminal enterprise. So as we took a more deeper dive into what was occurring here with stolen items, we know over that time period that we were doing active surveillance and selling them stolen goods, that they were responsible for 33 thefts, not just throughout Florida, but even into states as far away as Kentucky, Tennessee, and even as far north as Indiana. This criminal enterprise would put a demand list out for items that they wanted to purchase, and that, hey, you go steal these items. They would steal these items, Kentucky, in states of like Kentucky, Tennessee, throughout the state of Florida, far north is Indiana, and then bring them back to Tampa, Florida. I alluded to the video that you're watching now that we'll provide to you, but you can see how organized it was, almost set up the convenience like a hardware store, like a Home Depot or a Lowe's, where a lot of these thefts were occurring. The paint section was here. The electrical section was over there. Whatever they had broken up into different sections, again, to make it convenient for their customers when they came for the items, these stolen items that they wanted to purchase. So 33 items during this time period we know that they stole at 33 locations where these thefts occurred during the time we were actively surveilling them. 219 items for approximate value over $56,000. During the same time period, we know they're responsible for the theft at 3 construction sites with a total of over $100,000 of loss at these 3 construction sites. At that time, teaming up with Attorney General Uthmeyer and the statewide prosecutor's office, we began to take a deeper dive. You hear it all the time, if you want to know what someone's doing, follow the money. And that's what we did in this case. We followed the money. In the past year alone, we know that this criminal enterprise is responsible for the sale of over $7 million of stolen goods. That's money that was laundered into their bank accounts, where they had numerous accounts. $30,000 to $40,000 would flow into these accounts and flow right back out of these different accounts. But through the forensic subpoenas and deep dive that we were able to do, we know that they're responsible for at least $7 million of stolen items. Throughout this time period, we also tracked back that it wasn't just the customers who came to these locations, whether it was the storage units we served search warrants or the main house that was almost converted into a hardware store. We know that there were 1,800 sale transactions that occurred online. So think about this enterprise. We now know that they've been operating for at least 3 years, but we believe may up to 5 years. Again, we wanted to announce the results of what we know now, but realize with this going over state lines and to the expanse of this criminal enterprise, that investigators and still have a lot more work to do to find out exactly who's involved and what has occurred here. So we got to a point where it was time to shut it down. Whenever you have a criminal enterprise that's impacting the community like this is, yes, you want to get it to a point where you're trying to get everyone responsible, but at the same point, how long can you allow this to occur? So we finally made a decision on May 4th to serve the search warrants that we were able to obtain. So we served 4 search warrants, and we're able to obtain 14 arrest warrants for individuals, again, responsible for this criminal enterprise. When I talk about criminal enterprise, I want to explain how organized and how each individual had a specific role. You had the suppliers, those that were responsible for stealing the items, the transporters, those who were responsible for transporting the items, and then the whole resale operation of how this occurred. Let's go back to even talk a little further detail how this happened. These individuals would steal these items. They would have a receipt. Sometimes they would get caught and they'd have to stop and go pay for an item. They would take that receipt, they would wait a while, go to another location, the same location, and go back in and return that item, and with that receipt, go steal the same item. They would go to construction sites and steal appliances, electrical panel boxes, expensive items, and then take it back to this fencing operation. So the day that we served the search warrant, the magnitude of the items that we recovered were still inventorying these items. This is just a fraction of what was recovered. But during the inventory, they tell me that at least 30 cars stopped by this house in Lutz that was converted to a hardware store, that 30 cars stopped. 30 customers came trying to buy these items. When you talk about this theft and you talk about the amount of evidence, we've already talked about the $7 million that we know. Now think about this, $7 million that was laundered from the proceeds and sale of these stolen items, that was at a discounted rate. I don't know and shudder to know what the true retail value of that was. We know that the items that we recovered, as we're still going through it, but what I can confidently say now is we have recovered at least another $5 million in stolen items. So over the past year, we know they're responsible for at least $12 million in theft, and that's being extremely conservative. Again, during this day, and again, I keep going back to express my gratitude to the statewide prosecutor's office, who've been with us every step of the way. We served 14 arrest warrants throughout multiple jurisdictions. We ended up serving 4 search warrants. We're able to recover $5 million worth of items. We also seized 7 vehicles that were used to benefit this criminal enterprise. And at the same time, we're able to serve a RICO forfeiture lien, place of forfeiture lien on the main house that was used as a hardware store. When you talk about retail theft, a lot of people are like, what's the big deal? It's a victimless crime. Corporations like Home Depot, Lowe's, they can afford it. They make lots of money. That's not the case. These are for-profit businesses. These aren't charitable organizations. So I want you to think about this. When thieves like this operate in a community, we're all victims, because that theft has to be passed on to the consumers. So every single one of us pay more at the register because of thieves like this who continue to try to operate throughout our country and here in Tampa, Florida. Fortunately today, I get to stand here because of the great work by the detectives and announce the conclusion of an operation to this point because of their hard work, that these thieves will no longer operate here, that we will stop paying more at the register because of our organized retail theft unit. Since the inception of the organized retail theft unit in 2023, retail theft in Hillsborough County has decreased 14%. That's because of the hard work, the dedication, and sacrifice of every detective assigned to that unit. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to turn the microphone and podium over to Florida's Attorney General, James Uthmeyer. General.
Thank you. Well, good morning. It's great to be here in Hillsborough County. I think the sheriff summed up this massive theft enterprise pretty well. You've got millions in stolen goods, impacting multiple states, multiple counties, crossing over circuit and jurisdictional lines. And, we relaunched, 6-7 months ago, our retail theft task force to combat this, this effort that criminals pursue to take goods into other circuits, sell them elsewhere, and try to take advantage of jurisdictional boundaries and red tape. Well, through our statewide prosecution office and our task force, working with our great retail partners, we've been able to bust through these boundaries and ensure that we have jurisdiction through our partnerships to take this case and its investigation across county and circuit lines, across jurisdictional boundaries, and ensure that we are pulling in the totality of the investigation. And this is the result of that. I cannot say enough about how seamless and great the working relationship was with the sheriff's office here. I want to thank all the law enforcement officers that were part of this. Stephanie here, who was the lead prosecutor, said, the detective work here was some of the best she's ever seen. So thank you for your work. The conclusion of this operation is a great victory for justice. It's a great victory for our retail partners, and it's a great victory for Florida citizens and consumers. As the sheriff said it well, you save in your wallets. As people at home are struggling to pay for gas and put food on the table, this is an incredible result to continue to keep costs as low as we can. When you have large theft operations like this, Security costs go up, insurance goes up, the cost of goods goes up. So we're going to continue to send a message here in Florida. If you engage in this type of behavior, we're going to take you down and you're going to go away for a very long time. Today, the charges involved in this case will include RICO, conspiracy to commit RICO, money laundering, dealing in stolen property, grand theft, trespass on a construction site, and organized retail theft. Here in Florida, we continue to throw the book at offenders. We continue to prosecute to the fullest with the highest charges we can bring, again, to send a message. If you're a criminal, do not come to Florida. I mean, don't engage in the behavior to begin with, but you are an idiot if you want to come to Florida and break the law. Because we have the best law enforcement in the country. We have their backs. They know that. We give them the tools to be successful, and we let them do their jobs, and they do it well. So we will continue to prosecute to the fullest. I want to thank the detectives again, our retail partners, Stephanie for her outstanding work, and Sheriff, it's an honor to work alongside you. I look forward to many more big busts. If they're out there, hopefully people will change their behavior. But if not, we will be ready. All right, thank you all. God bless.
At this time, me and the Attorney General will be open for any questions. A little bit of both. It's too hard to speculate now, as now we look over state lines. There's still a lot to do here, a lot of forensic evidence to still look at. I believe there'll be at least, at minimum, additional charges, additional counts, maybe even involve even more individuals that our tentacles didn't reach during this operation. That's always a great question. I think that they're equally as guilty. I don't know if we'll have charges for them, but they know it's unethical. You know, if something costs $1,000 and you're paying $200, we all say this: if it's too good to be a great deal, it's because it's not true. Like it's too good to be true. It's because it is too good to be true. It means that it's a stolen item, and these individuals, our community members, should know better. And I'll give you an example. We were talking to a contractor who was upset that he didn't get a job. And when he gave the bid, he had $10,000 in material. That's what it cost him, just in material. Meanwhile, they had a contractor who had been buying these stolen items, and he bid $4,000 for the entire job because he's paying a fraction of the price for the stolen goods. That's never healthy. Yes, out of the 14 individuals that were arrested, we know 4 were here unlawfully. Again, working with Homeland Security investigations. Once their local charges are done, they'll be turned over to them. But there are ICE detainers on 4 individuals. Yeah, I think this is no different than if you talk about human trafficking. You have to reduce the demand. This is no different. It was brought up just a minute ago. If a deal's too good to be true, it's because it is. Stop engaging in it. If there's not a secondary market for stolen goods, we'll have thieves that will stop stealing goods because there's not a market, there's not a pathway to profitability. So I think all of us have a fiduciary responsibility of making sure we're doing the right thing. This was a criminal enterprise that was so sophisticated that as inflation went up, they raised their prices a little bit. As demand went up, they raised their prices a little bit. Again, only all of us in the community can say we're not going to help these organizations be successful because we're not going to purchase stolen items. You have to know when it's too good to be true, it's because it is. Again, reduce the demand. If there's not a secondary market, people will stop stealing items. Yeah, a lot of electrical. We saw that there was a lot of profitability in electric, from electric panels to electric wiring. That's quite expensive. So a lot of it focused on electrical work. When they would go steal appliances at construction sites, We know how expensive they are. From paint, if you look at some of the video, there were gallons and gallons and gallons, buckets of 5-gallon paint from every different color. And the good thing is the way it's tracked is there's always a home address or a job address or a job number. That's how we're going back now. When I talk about this secondary part of the investigation, we have hundreds of gallons of paint with a job description. Now we'll have to go back and look at the job and see if, hey, is there another victim? There's a construction site. Are you willing to help us prosecute? So when we talk about additional charges, that's how they'll be derived from. We can find additional thefts to hold these people accountable and responsible for. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks for coming out.